recording. Okay, I call the Board of Selectmen meeting to order for Thursday, February 7th, 2019 at 7:01. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any additions to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, I move to approve the agenda as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Attendance? Everyone's in attendance. And now we'll continue with the budget workshops that we just finished. So if Ruben, you could join us again.
All right. So again, for purposes of the record, Ruben Flores Marchand, Town Planner. So we were discussing the budget line items for the Planning and Development Department. And we were talking about the proposal of adding a new body to the department, a strategic planner. And then we started talking about the space allocation for our office, how it's not suitable for conducting businesses and all that. So we decided to weigh a few things here, and given the limitations of resources that we had and what a new body would add to the value for the town versus, making aesthetic improvements to the office, we decided to, whenever we have meetings with potential investors, we'd rather have them here. But at our office, we will be, doing the crunching in terms of, getting development projects underway and facilitating, economic growth.
My only concern is that a number of years ago, I belonged to the Economic Development Commission, and I had an opportunity to go out and talk to economic development professionals, developers,
right,
or rather directors for 3 towns, Enfield, South Windsor, and Windsor. The facilities they have to bring potential developers in and impress them with the professionalism of the town was a dramatic difference than your office. They have nice offices, conference tables, that the place looked good. And your office doesn't look good. It just doesn't look good. And it's last year we had kind of a rough order of magnitude estimate of like $20,000 to make some change outs of furniture. The Works Department thought that they could get some used furniture for next to nothing that was in good condition. A coat of paint would do a lot. Some reorganization would do a lot. It isn't big bucks. And my personal opinion is that first impressions are lasting impressions. And my impression walking into your office compared to walking into those other 3 offices was dramatically different.
Yeah.
Andy, I'll say that we too here realize just what you said. And there is a budgeting problem because it doesn't fall into capital improvements.
But there is a new line item called renovation.
Yes, there is, and that's what we should key on. And another thing, and so I'm glad you brought it up, and we've been considering actually moving the, but this is still in consideration. planning and development office to where the tax office is, and moving the tax office to where the planning and development is. So we're looking at the whole building and trying to, as you say, put the best presentation forward. So it's a good point to raise, and no question about it.
I just think that it's a, just to reiterate, and I'll go away, I just think it's a very important office. First impressions are very lasting, and facilities do make a difference.
Absolutely. Thanks. So when we take a look at the budget, so the salary, that's, the position that we're working towards.
Could you explain?
Yes.
You're the town planner.
Yes.
And you have an assistant town planner, right? So what would be the difference in the duties of the person you're looking to add on?
Right.
And also, what are the credentials that you would expect someone to have
So,
for the salary that you're paying?
So in terms of the credentials and the salary expectation, it will be the same as the assistant town planner. Usually that starts with a master's degree in planning, public administration, engineering sometimes, more than 5 years of experience in municipal planning and development. So those will be the criteria in terms of the academics and skill sets. Obviously, computer proficient, proficient with zoning and land use regulations and plans and et cetera within a governmental setting. In terms of the actual skills and the actual task for the position, it would somewhat vary, whereas the assistant town planner deals mostly with zoning enforcement and development review tasks, which are short-range planning functions. This person will be dealing with intergovernmental coordination, economic development research. We have viewpoint, view permit software application, but we have no one basically to track the progress of the different projects. So this person will be instrumental in tracking the projects as they come through the door. They go into the software package, so all the departments are commenting and making sure that that project goes from A through Z in a satisfactory manner, both for the town, that it makes sure that we're actually looking at the different regulations that are satisfied, but also on the developer side, that they're actually meeting their benchmarks. So you go in, you expect that your project is going to be reviewed and processed, and at the end of the process, you're going to get your permit. So this software package, which is in place, but we need a body, we need a person so that they can take a look at how the different departments are coordinating and processing the application, so nothing is missing out. That will be one of the functions.
How many projects would you say you have in a month's time that needs to be?
It depends on the outflows, but for instance, we're just in the process of looking at an application for a large-scale project on South Main Street, a produce and dairy manufacturing facility, and that's almost a $22–25 million project. So it's an important project that we need to make sure that all the departments are fully vested in, that they're looking and they're doing the reviews, and that everyone understands the importance of this project, and that the regulations that everyone is actually accomplishing, that we don't want the project to be going through the wayside because somebody missed out on, turning in a particular document.
It sounds like there's overlap between the building official and that person.
So the building official will be taking care of the structural assets, taking care of those regulations in terms of heights, densities, and
applications and...
But the application is a coordination that, departments, public works, if you look at the project and the site plans, do you have any comments? Planning, building, and so on and so forth. So everyone at the table understands what the project is about, and they can come and add to the discussion. So at the end of the process, when the application goes before the Planning and Zoning Commission, all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted.
Isn't that something that the assistant planner can and should do?
The volume, they do that and I do that as well, but the volume of work is quite immense when we're starting to factor in all the different tasks and responsibilities that we have to carry with the planning, conservation, and development. So there, I started looking through this and I did some analysis. We still have a lot of pending items from way back in 2004 that the town has not accomplished. And this is 2016, the second version of the Plan of Conservation and Development. So on the planning side, things are piling up, whereas at the same time, you need to do the daily routine of taking care of the public, processing the applications, staying abreast of trends in the different industries, and how the town can position itself to take maximum opportunity. Emerging trends, like what's happening with the hemp industry nationwide. There's a great possibility for East Windsor to, create a niche of its own. But if we don't have people, enough bodies at the office to be taking care of those opportunities, they just fall by the wayside. Number two, the casino is a perfect example. You guys were, instrumental in doing the RFP and going through the motions, and then externalities came into the way. But that was an opportunity that somebody saw, and you were able to come together.
But make a point, let me make a point.
Yes.
Taking the casino, we had a part-time economic development professional who, and I don't know the details of that. Bob knows it better than I by a lot. I wasn't here at the time. But it's my understanding that O'Brien really made a difference. His understanding of economic development and what had to be done to put together a good proposal and so on was a very meaningful thing.
Right.
In the, being in the right place.
Right.
On Route 91 and that close to Bradley Field and all that kind of good stuff, sure didn't hurt any. But my understanding is that we put together a reasonably good proposal to some large extent because of its expertise. You and I have had this discussion previously,
yes.
But is this person that you're talking about bringing on, we don't have an economic development professional. And you and I talked about that, and you said you thought you could do some of that, or do that job.
I'm experienced in that job.
And I warned you that, that from what I understood, it's just all secondhand. I don't know a darn thing about it.
Yep.
But in talking to these people who are good at it, like the people in Windsor and South Windsor particularly, they made a point that each one of those people independently said that they spend like 40 days extra going to various affairs after work or weekends or whatever, or during the day, where people who can influence where a new project is going to be located, are the shakers and movers, are talking about this. And they made a point that their presence there made a real difference in whether they were a game player or whether they were just one of the people sitting on the outside of the fence looking in. I don't know if you have that kind of background or not. If this fellow or person, fellow or girl, lady you're going to hire is going to free you up to do that, then I'm all for it. But if it's just another person, coordination is coordination, and you've talked about a lot of coordination. We really need a doer, so that you can go do something else.
So you probably remember, but about 2 weeks ago we were at the State House.
Yep.
And we were able to meet the movers and shakers. So that is just one example that within the very brief amount of time that I've been here, I've been able to talk to the talk and walk the walk. An extra body always helps. I wouldn't be telling you that we needed it if I didn't think that we needed it. One of the things that I did when I started with this job was to make an evaluation of our inventory, our assets at the office. I carry 20 years of planning experience. Matt's been a planner for a little bit, 2 years or so. So So there's a gap there, you know, and an additional body would help immensely in freeing up time to looking at the bigger picture. Obviously, as a town planner, I'm trying to be as involved as I can in all the pots, you know, looking at what's going on. It's part of my job. But certainly, the town would be in a much better capacity with an additional set of trained eyes and ears to get some of this stuff going, so we can free up and, you know, go meet some new folks that are trying to do business in town.
Is it your plan that wear two hats, economic development professional?
I'm already wearing two hats.
Well, another hat,
Another hat.
economic development
Yeah.
director,
So,
professional?
to me, the title, you know, I'm town planner, planning director, that's enough for me. It's about the functions and, you know, the people that can help me out in pursuing those functions to the satisfaction of the town.
So from my standpoint, I'm just not clear as to putting this person on. Is it to do economic development, which it says here, or is it to do other things outside of there? Because economic development, you know, as Andy said, he's been to these other towns, and they have a dedicated person to do it because it really takes a lot of time. Other towns have tried to split that with, you know, have a developer that represent a couple towns, and that doesn't work out. It's going to have somebody that's really dedicated to it. So again, I'm not clear from you what
The
it
planning
is.
and economic development functions will still be under me. This person will be assisting in the planning and the development functions of the day-to-day stuff that needs to occur at the office, from the planning review, from actually implementing some of the key strategies that we have in our plan of conservation and development, coordinating and using Viewpoint in order to ensure that all the departments are up to date and know what needs to be done for each of the development projects. So it's more of a, it's more intense on the tracking and getting stuff from the plan of conservation and development actually done. But the grand scheme of things, the bigger picture, the planning, what needs to get done, the economic development components, and how it all comes together, that's still my responsibility. This is another set of bodies, just like Matt. Matt takes care of zoning enforcement. This person will be filling in the stuff that Matt's not being able to do, because there's a lot of volume in terms of zoning enforcement, you know, being out there, looking at properties, making inspections and all that. That takes a lot of time from the other functions that
So
needs to be carried out.
So this ad would not be doing economic development?
Correct, that would be my function.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
but to do the economic development, you need to do research, you need to do analysis, you need to compile data, you need to analyze trends. So this person would also help on that, you know, gather, collecting that information and synthesizing that information, and then I get to, you know, effect the strategy where I need information for that. And that is a very tedious and long-term process, you know, gathering information out there and making sense of that information. You know, you see a lot of websites that they just dump information, but there's no one that actually can translate or understand the context of that information for your own jurisdiction. So you can Google anything, but in terms of interpreting how that information is of useful value to your organization, that takes a special skill set and it takes time. So, yeah.
The software that you use, what is that called per?
GIS?
No,
You permit?
your permit, yeah. But you're very familiar with that, using that?
I am familiar with it. So UPermit is essentially a platform where development projects are spearheaded and tracked. So users are able to log in, and depending on their access levels, they can look at information and request information from other departments, such as Public Works. If we had an environmental division, where they do environmental analysis, they would take a look at the information, and it's a way of collaborating electronically, so everyone understands what needs to be done from your department's perspective, and for you to know what we and planning are doing. So that application basically starts on one end and keeps going, and people keep putting information on it and doing the back and forth, making sure that at the end, it's a complete application with all the requirements so the decision makers can make a determination.
Now, I spoke with the director of the Public Works, and he said he uses it daily.
Yeah.
Now, other people have said that it's terrible software. And is that the bump in the road that is delaying the assistant planner because the software isn't good? There's been no request to have something different, and should there have been?
My understanding is that you have had the application for a while, that not everyone uses it. Based on my experience elsewhere, sometimes it requires a particular person to be assigned to track the applications using the software and send the reminders and be on top of that. That might be an issue here. I'm not saying that that would be the issue. A second consideration would be that it might not be the most suitable software package for the organization, but that's a determination that more knowledgeable people about the different software packages that are out there would be able to make and or relate to decision makers.
Have you seen others from where you've been before?
From way back when, that they're no longer in business, but Viewpoint has been able to basically monopolize, so to speak, the market here in the U.S. It's about providing a resource, again, to keep track of what's going on in the workflows. In the experience, that seems to be the winning strategy, to assign a particular person with a primary responsibility of ensuring that departments are using the software to track the projects. So, yeah.
Ruben,
Yes.
a task for this new position. The town has, I think, for a long time needed a good inventory of properties in town. It's my impression, and I think it's correct, that in a general sense, except for what Larry Tribble owns down along Route 5, that there are many parcels of land along Route 140 and Route 5, which we view as our commercial corridor,
Yep.
Industrial corridor, that are owned by various people. And I don't know the numbers, these are just but 5 acres, 10 acres at a shot. A developer may come in and want 40 acres. Somebody, your office, a economic development professional, has to broker to find the 4 or 5 people who could put together the 40 acres they're looking for. I don't think we have that. In the other towns that I talked about previously, they indeed have that. They have an inventory of lands that are available. Now, maybe those towns have chunks of land that are owned, larger pieces of land that are owned
Right.
by a single person. That makes it easier. Would that person help you to do that? Would they inventory the land in town and put together a summary saying that Andy Hoffman owns this and Charlie Szymanski owns that, and those two will be equal enough for ABC company to come in and build something? So I gotta get Charlie and Andy to both be willing to sell for $10,000 an acre, or whatever the right number is?
So we already have a land inventory, a parcel inventory, and we have a geographic information system.
That's never been finished, though. I don't think it's a very complete inventory.
If I could just
Yes.
interrupt, you're talking very closely to what that person came in, LADA, for Warehouse Point. We're making that exact diagram, but it's only for Warehouse Point, it's not for the whole town.
Yeah.
Right.
But we'll know, we'll have every single piece of property in Warehouse Point numbered. And with that number, you'll find out the owner and all the
Yep.
different aspects of it, the soil content and whatever. And if you say, I want these 3 or 4 pieces, then it'd be very easy to put it together. But you do, so we'll have the information, at least for Warehouse Point, but we do need someone.
I was kind of wondering
Yeah.
whether we could do that for all of Route 5,
Yes.
and we could do it all for all of Route 140. As you know, as part of this interviewing of companies in town, I talked to Larry Tribble, and I asked him a very simple question. I said, Larry, if we found a developer here in town, a developer to come to town, and he wanted to build on your property on Route 5, would you be willing to work with the town to get that developer the right amount of land? And he said, Andy, I'll tell you what, the land I have on Route 5 is land I own. However, he said, I don't need land on Route 5. He said, I need land for what for storing cars and so on. I could accept other property, and I could work a deal with the town where I would be willing to swap land, I'm sure at the proper cost or price, so that you could in fact bring that ABC company in here and give them 20 acres or 30 acres of my land on Route 5. I think that there are people in town who have to be talked to do exactly what you're talking about in Warehouse Point, and that is to categorize land, make sure you understand what the soil samples, it's work. It's something that I don't think we have a good hand on today.
We have to study at least the beginning, it's a partial thing.
Yeah.
But, sorry to interrupt, but.
No, that's fine. So if we keep looking at the different line items, that's essentially the main change that we have in our budget, right?
Yeah, I think, and I also see that you drop out $20,000 here that was for professional services. So if you did get that person, then I guess you're saying we wouldn't need to spend quite so much money for professional services.
Correct, right.
So
Correct.
there's a trade-off there.
Yes.
You also say you're going to upload the economic development website. When's that going to happen?
So we've been in conversations and we've been trading emails and drafts of the content that's going to be on the website.
Yeah.
They promised that they would have in the next 2 weeks a beta site, which is a testing site, so we can log in and take a look at how the content looks like and how they feel in terms of the navigation of the website.
And you or somebody here in town has looked at their progress? Because
Yes.
they made that same statement over a year ago. As part of last year's budget, this year's budget, we got money to build that website, and we selected a company, organization to do it with us. And in like May or June of last year, they said they thought they'd have a beta site ready to go like in July.
Yeah.
And they'd be ready to go online with a website in like August or September. Now, we asked them for schedules to show us how they were going to do that. They never produced those. When September rolled around, they said, well, we have to wait until the town website is up and running before we can do this. That wasn't part of their original story. And I'm just wondering whether you or somebody else in town is looking at it in enough detail so that we're convinced that they really do have some way of getting to that 6 weeks or whatever it is out
So I'm working directly with them in terms of looking at the content and made significant changes to what they were proposing, and I'm actually meeting with them next week. So we'll see what they have. It's a meet and greet because I never met them face to face. It's been always on the phone and via email. So that would be an opportunity for me to say, hey, show me what you got, essentially. So yeah, I'll have more information about that when that meeting takes place.
And another question. Is there any reason that as our town planner slash economic development director, you couldn't come in once every quarter and tell us the status of the progress on what you're trying to accomplish?
I see no reason why we wouldn't be able to do that.
I'd sure like to hear that,
Sure,
frankly.
absolutely. Yeah, we can do that. We can, set it up on the agenda and,
Okay,
about 10 minutes.
okay.
I could send you an email so you know beforehand.
Yeah, it'd be great.
And then we can, brainstorm a little bit.
Mhm.
Sure?
I'd like that a lot.
Yeah.
Part of that, would show, what I'd like to see is, what initiatives, are started. Not everything closes or gets done
Right.
in this short period of time. But what different types of businesses you've reached out to, and who, and what is the timetable, what is the next follow-up kind of thing?
What's going on?
Yeah, to put it in a format like that. So
Absolutely.
we have some idea as to
Right.
where we can look.
So there are two websites that are very interesting, LoopNet, and the other one is actually created by CERC, Economic Research Center. It's a state, it's not a state agency, but it mostly serves municipalities. But they do have part of their application, they keep track of land transactions. And you're able to notice real quick that most of the development interest and our activity is along our main corridors, Route 5 and 140, that L. And then we can certainly keep track of that information, and over time, perhaps in 6 months or a year from now, we can make some determinations and assumptions of what types of development projects are being pursued, right? And then we can take a look at our own town-owned land inventory to see, okay, so we have these large pieces of land. How do we retrofit these with a particular land use to pursue certain opportunities, or do we keep them, in the back pocket for a bigger opportunity that may come into the future? It takes analysis and it takes time, but this is what we're pursuing. And an extra body would substantially help with that. So that's all I have.
No, the other budgets you have are all in tab 6.
Oh, okay.
It's all his other boards and commissions. With the only one that has something significantly different being EDC. Looking for a $5,000 increase in professional services. It's number 810500 in tab 6.
Yeah, that's
Do you have ZBA? Is ZBA one of your reports?
ZBA, yes.
His boards actually start at 810200 with planning and zoning. But the only one of them with a significant change is the EDC.
What is the phone app?
Your smartphone app.
Is that like mobile GIS?
Pretty much, but as you well know, folks are pretty much distancing themselves from doing, searches via desktop computing.
Right.
Because they're on the road.
Right.
So, it'd be great if we could, pull up your phone and you have a conversation and you say, why don't you download our app? And then, it's an online GIS application with certain features that are pertaining strictly to East Windsor. Rather than just zooming in and out all over Connecticut, just focus on East Windsor. and the opportunities. That could be something that we could pursue, and it will be, it'd be great to actually break the ice. As you know, pretty much folks no longer give business cards. They trade their apps. Or they, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Or they go on LinkedIn. They say, hey, look me up on LinkedIn. Well, it's different. You know, transactions are happening on the phone. So we need to gravitate towards those environments. But first things first. We have a website. Should be live pretty soon. Let's take a look at that. Works. What's plan B if it's needed? Obviously, you know, this is where the investment community comes in and say, hey, how do you prefer for us to provide you with information? Send me an email. Or why don't you have an app? Or mail it to me. Or come to my office.
Mhm.
You know, that's that face-to-face that you're talking
Your
about.
fixed up office.
Yes. That'd be great.
I don't hear him saying no to that. I just hear him saying he's
No,
got
but-
Well,
other
that
priorities.
is in town properties. There is that
Yeah.
$50,000 account that we talked about on Tuesday night
Yeah.
for that office renovations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's, so there is
Yep.
an account for that.
yep, yep.
Your request for supplies and equipment is $4,000.
So,
And that's based on,
let's see.
Are you back in the planner?
No, that's a different, yeah, 4,000, is that? No.
what you have?
$500.
Where's the 4,000?
No, $500.
Oh, he's talking about the public notice and the legal ads, 4,500, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in the
Yeah,
advertising. That's
yeah.
split out of that 6,500. His detail has 6,500 in there. I split them between professional services being 2,000 and advertising being 4,500.
Okay.
I split everybody's advertising out into a new account in the detail, if you're looking at the 3-year historical that I gave everybody, but it's not broken out in individual departments because it wasn't thought of until after we started having budget discussions. But it is in the detail on the summary sheets.
Got it.
Okay, anything further? Thank you, Ruben.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ruben.
Well, that's the phone app.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 6. I move to approve the special meeting minutes of January 15th, 2019. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those who are in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I move to approve the regular meeting minutes of January 17th, 2019. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I have a correction.
Correction?
I highlighted it. Oh, here, it's on page 7, top of page 7.
Okay.
I'm attributed to saying that the choice in terms of the ordinance establishing a tax exemption for farm buildings is a choice between preserving the town's farmland and rural character or farming businesses. I wouldn't have said farming businesses, they're the same thing. So I just like farming stricken from there.
Like farming businesses, distinction between,
Preserving our town's rural character, so preserving farmland and rural character or businesses.
or businesses, okay.
Where is that, Jason?
Right here.
Got it.
I didn't come to a conclusion.
It's on tonight's agenda.
You want to put or in there, he said?
Yeah.
Okay, then I will retract my motion and move to approve the regular minutes for January 17th, 2019 as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, communications, are there?
Before we move on to that, I know there are a bunch of folks for the very last item on the agenda. Could we take them out of order so they don't have to sit through the entire meeting?
Yes, we can.
What's the title of it?
No, that's fine.
So I would move to take up agenda item 11D next.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. No, I'm not opposed. I'm just delayed.
Okay, so we'll, when are we going to take that up?
I said next, so I mean, you'd
All
already
right.
called communications, so if you want to do communications, I don't care. I just don't want them to wait till.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I don't think there is any communications. Is there any communications? Hearing none, we'll move to item 11D, 250th Anniversary Committee Discussion.
All right, so almost a month ago now, I had gone to the treasurer's office to make a final deposit or something, and I had mentioned that we're looking to close out our books and make our final donations to organizations that we had mentioned back from 2016, and I was told that there was talk somewhere, somehow, that the money is expected to go back to the general fund, and I said, nope, that's definitely not what it was approved of, so I was told I had to come here and discuss it. So I did send a packet to Bob and Melissa, so I don't know if that got distributed to everybody.
I think it did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Quite a large packet.
Yeah, I wanted to include everything that I had and everything that I found, so everybody's looking at the same exact thing, so.
Was there any disposition from the previous board for this money? Because at the very beginning, we, in the 250th Anniversary Committee, we talked about if there was surplus money, that we would dispense it to whatever we thought were the proper kind of charities.
Yep.
So that was something we thought was going to happen right from the very beginning.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
Now, I don't know what transpired with the previous board.
No, I think, if I may interrupt, the previous board authorized $10,000 to be given to the 250th anniversary as seed money to start their
Yep.
operation.
Yep.
And that's what the previous board did.
But was there any caveat that if the money is not spent, that
No.
it would go back to the general fund?
No caveat.
And either through ignorance or whatever, we thought we had the authority to dispense it where we wanted to good causes in town.
That was the understanding that we had from day one,
Yep,
from
it was
coming
indeed.
from the Board of
It
Selectmen.
was indeed.
Yes, because it was said in the meeting minutes that it was a contribution from the town towards our
Yep.
goal. So,
Yeah, I don't know that that was the intention.
it wasn't stated as that, that's why it's not written anywhere, that's why I'm here. But that was the intent after everything was made, and
We certainly thought that was up to us to do that.
that we could do that. We
Yeah.
had the ability to do that, but it wasn't.
So I made the motion, and the intention was, I'm very precise when I make motions. The intention of the motion was exactly as is written.
Read it, please.
To recommend to the Board of Finance and forward to town meeting an added appropriation in the amount of $10,000 for the 250th Anniversary Celebration Committee as a contribution from the town towards their goal. That was specifically what the intention of the motion was. And I can tell you, it was passed unanimously.
Yes.
And this is where well, actually, it was in an email. I think Rebecca asked me a question in an email January 22nd. And I believe that Amy said prior to that, when Rebecca was talking about it, that the money should be given to the town, given back to the town. And you asked me what I think, and this is what I think now, and thought when you asked me that question, and we were deciding whether or not to give you $10,000 as a contribution to start the 250th, that was my focus, is to get the 250 going, and I wasn't thinking that far ahead. And then we had discussions in the 250th committee, and we said, well, what are we going to do when we have money left over? And there were,
If we have money left over.
Okay.
Because we were never planning on having money left over.
well,
It
we
was
were
just
hoping
that
we would get more contributions than we needed. We wanted.
We were hoping to spend it all and
Yeah.
make everything great, and we certainly did, but
But then Amy said, being the new treasurer, well, if you have money left over, and the town gave money to the 250th, that money should be given back. And then if there was a surplus, it should be given away. So it's just a matter of the $10,000, and since we don't have enough surplus to equal $10,000, I personally, I didn't think of it then when we started it, but now I'm saying, well, what I would be saying if I was to say, yes, give it to whoever you want, that I would be saying that I would be authorizing you to give away the taxpayers' money to charities. And I'm not going to do that. I would vote against this.
There's no vote. The Board of Selectmen made a vote with a clear motion, with a clear intention, that was followed through on. You can't pass anything retroactively. You can't go back.
No, but I can pass today a motion not to give that money to charity.
That is specifically called retroactivity.
Maybe yes, maybe no, we'll see.
That's like saying you're going to give
Well,
somebody...
and you're saying that we don't have to vote to give away this money?
I'm saying that I don't know that it's our money. So they were given $10,000. If they had expenditures in excess of $10,000, then how do we know that any of that money is mine? Conversely, as if anybody who had contributed towards the pot throughout the course of the campaign, with the intention that that money be donated to charity, now as if there was a surplus, now realizes that the town is not in fact a charity, how do we prorate their share back to them if they want it? It's commingled at this point. You know, it's the money was appropriated for a specific intention, spent on that specific intention, and is now gone.
yeah. We spent $10,000.
I don't understand how you can unring this bell without
Right.
putting the government's hand into somebody else's
How
pocket.
much money
The
is left?
first 6 months, there's 8,000, I don't have that so straight.
Out of the 10?
What?
8,000 out of 10 is left?
No. It's a different 8.
Yeah, remaining from everything, we have 8,000 left. We got that many donations that we couldn't spend it all. We just couldn't, from
Okay.
everything that we had done. We paid all of our bills, we did everything, and there's still 8,000 left. Part of that is because the police department never actually charged us for Heritage Day, and that was budgeted to be about $2,000. So
Okay.
that's why we do have an extra than what we were originally thinking anyway.
So if it should turn about that the police department decides they do want to bill for the donation that they made, rather than having the money lapse back to the town, they could do that.
Could, yeah.
But is it a done deal? Have they?
Their
They've
checks are signed,
They've contributed that,
Yeah.
their time for
Yeah,
nothing.
they put it in for their budget or something else, so.
So what's the difference there? They made an obligation to the event happened, now they'd be coming back and saying, well, you know, on second thought, we want to be paid. How is that,
I
what's the
agree.
distinction?
I agree.
Good, that point.
But we spent that money within the first 6 months of everything, on all of the merchandise we got to start up and doing all the mailings and all that stuff. We spent that money in the first 6 months of being established.
Can you document that you expended $10,000 in 6 months?
Yep.
How much did you take in that period?
That is, I did write that down, but it didn't equal out each other, because I did the math before, and it does not equal out each other at all.
So your first, I'm guessing we were your first contribution.
Yes.
You spent $10,000 that we gave you on stuff we wanted you to spend it on.
Yes, on merchandise and getting everything established, we can actually go out, do fundraising, get everything else together, and start getting deposits down for events that we had coming up. So we used the money as it was intended to be used for, so.
Sounds that way.
It is that way, it's all in the papers.
Rebecca, how much money did we actually raise?
Altogether,
45?
45-ish, give or take. Yeah, 45,000.
I think
So
Paul
the first
Anderson,
10,000 was just a drop in the bucket for what money we raised.
Right.
You raised 45 beyond the 10,
Yes, not including the 10.
so the total money you had was roughly 55?
Yes,
That's very, very impressive.
yeah.
I think you did
Kudos to
good.
all of you for that.
You did good.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a lot of money.
I come back, though, to, the motion was precise, and I know it was precise because I remember making it. And that's what the intention was, that's what the vote of the board was.
Paul?
Paul Anderson, Vice Chairman of the 250th Anniversary Committee. It is true that the taxpayers put up $10,000, and over the period of 9 months of events, the taxpayers got their money's worth.
For sure.
I don't think there's any question whatsoever, so I don't see how the taxpayers are entitled to a refund, which is what that amounts to. I can't see it.
There was a tremendous amount of volunteer effort put in by a lot of people that certainly at $1.50 an hour probably equaled more than
We
$10,000.
also have events for free. I'm
Yep.
sorry, but that's how you get
That
your
was the
money's
point.
worth, okay? So taxpayers went to these events, had a good time, said wonderful things about them, they got their money's worth. That's really what that's all about. And so for them to get the money back, that's like going to see a movie and saying, I love the movie, give me my money back. You're not entitled, so it's a non-issue.
Yeah.
You know, I'm looking at this stuff here, back on a regular meeting, July 5th, 2016. There was a discussion of the East Windsor 250th anniversary.
Page 6.
You know, it says down here, which this is probably where this ought to go. It was suggested any monies left over should go into a special fund for the 300th anniversary.
As a suggestion.
That was in the discussion portion of that item. The motion was specific. The motion is on page 6.
I'm looking at page 6.
No, the motion was in the 19th meeting, not the 5th meeting. So the motion happened
Oh, it's on page
after
6 of the
the
19th.
meeting that you're referring to. So at that time that you're referring to, Steve, in the July 5th meeting, we didn't even have funds at that point yet. So this was all starting from scratch and just starting the conversation at that point.
I mean, if there's gonna be a big argument where this money's gotta go, then why don't we just put it in a special fund
Well, there really shouldn't be a huge argument about it.
for the, well, it seems to be, everybody's worried about where the money's gonna go. So put it in a fund for the next anniversary.
It's not our money. Where's my?
It was a donation to the 250th, wasn't it?
Correct.
Didn't the town sign off on that money? It's gone.
Yep.
It ain't ours. I don't think.
Money that's left over is all donations from people and businesses in town who specifically said that they would not donate to this cause if it went back to the general
Yep.
fund. So, in essence, you'd be making us into liars.
And part of the reason
No,
too that.
we're just crooks.
Part of the
We're
reason
just
too
crooks.
that from that meeting during, when it was a suggestion as it, we had talked, and I think somebody had asked the treasurer, like, would that account to the 300th make money over time for interest? And the answer was no. So we said, why, the money can go to better use when the time that we have it, instead of putting it into a fund that's not gonna earn any interest over 50 years.
And what's $8,000 worth in 50 years?
Yeah. So.
Not even a mailing.
At the rate the postal service is going, that's true.
Yeah, so once the money was approved from this board and passed through Board of Finance, we had discussed it at 250 meeting, saying that was not the best option, and we decided to make organizations be where the money would be going to at the end.
And how many people went to Heritage Day?
Oh, there were like 1,200 people.
And so if 1,200 people spend $10,000, that's $8 a person.
Okay,
Give or dictate. It's like
Yep.
$8.25. So for $8.25, 1,200 people each attended a community-wide event.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah. So,
I don't think there's any action that's necessary here.
I just want to make sure that I can write my check request and actually have them approved, so, for the next meeting.
Have you got a final list of?
Yep,
what
we had
it is?
discussed that at our last meeting, which was right after this one in January.
So you had your own checking account then for all of
It was managed by the treasurer for the town, but we have our own 250th account with the town. It's completely separate from every other fund that's in the town.
Non-general
It's our,
fund.
yeah, it's our fund.
this? I don't see, continuing on with this. The way it was done is the way it was done. And if we could use it to donate to different charities, I think that's the worst thing.
If the town gets their money back, I'm gonna get my donation back.
Yeah, you made donations for sure. So,
I would suggest that we vote to authorize the treasurer to give the money in the fund, the 250th anniversary fund, to the 250th anniversary to distribute in any way they choose.
No, because they don't have the incorporation status to do that.
They don't have a chicken, it has to be done from the town.
right, it has to be
anyway.
done through the town, so the check requests come to you guys regardless, so you guys have to sign off on them, and I just don't want there to be an issue at the next meeting. We want to get this done and close out our books, because we're not gonna have a penny left in there. It's gonna be completely zeroed out, and that'll be done, so.
I would think the only thing that we could ask is, who are the worthy causes you selected, and just plain let it go. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
That's what we,
So to kind of get to what Bob was saying, I move to approve the disbursement of the surplus funds from the 250th committee as recommended by that committee.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, and I will have the check request ready for the next meeting.
Thank you. Rebecca.
Thank you.
I beg your pardon? I abstain from that vote.
Thank you for taking us earlier, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, moving right along. Public participation. Is there any yes?
Kathy Simonelli from Depot Street. I have not watched the film from the last meeting, the January 17th meeting, but I did read the minutes, and wanted to comment on something I read in the minutes about the CIP committee. And according to the minutes, Mr. Hoffman asked me how best he could get his questions answered, and we agreed that he would give them to me in writing, which he did. I agree with that as well. He said he did that. It says then a couple of weeks later, I asked her if she had the answers. I believe that's probably accurate. In one way or another, we had that conversation. And according to this, it says that I answered that I didn't have the time or resources to answer his questions. And that's the part that is not accurate. I did say I had not had time at that point yet to do it. First of all, we were still having CIP meetings. I was also working a lot of overtime, have been for the last 12 or 13 months. And I knew that the Board of Selectmen was not going to be listening to that presentation. In fact, it's not even on the schedule yet that I'm aware of, because I haven't been notified, so I did not think that there was any need to try to squeeze it into that short period of time. I was going to wait till all of the things were over, disperse all the questions out to the departments, and ask them to provide responses that I could return to Andy. By the time I was able to start to reach out to people with the questions that I did have from the first meeting, Andy had reached out to them himself, they told me. So that was the end of that. I didn't get any other questions after the first meeting, so.
And Kathy, that discussion we had, you did say to me that you just didn't have time to do it.
Well, I said I hadn't had time yet. I didn't say I wasn't gonna do it.
And I said to you, shall I submit additional questions? And you said, I don't have time to answer those. I don't have the resources or the answer or the time to do that.
I didn't say that. I know I didn't say that, because I would have never said that you could not submit questions. I would have absolutely accepted your questions.
I stopped after the first session I sat in on because you couldn't give me answers.
I didn't say I wouldn't give you answers. I said I hadn't had time to give you answers yet. I mean, I was having the meetings. I work for a living. There's only so many hours in the day. Every once in a while, I want to have dinner with my family, too.
And I understand that.
I just couldn't do it in the short period of time that you were giving.
But my point is, I still don't have answers to those dozen or so questions I asked from the first session.
You don't at this point, because when I reached out to the departments, they said that you reached out to them directly to ask those questions.
I haven't. I haven't talked to any.
They told me that you did.
I haven't talked to any.
I forwarded those questions.
I've talked to none of those people.
I think it's enough. I think, obviously, communication problem. And now, hearing what the other departments told you is not necessary. We are gonna have CIP there, scheduling them. And I think we will, in a sense, ask some departments for specific information that we would like about, and like Amy suggested, and I thought she was going to bring it today, but apparently, maybe she sent it out. She has a list of most of the motor vehicles in the town, because we have to insure those. So we know the VIN numbers and the dates and the license numbers of most of the motor vehicles in town. So we're starting to
Well, the
gather
books
our
that you guys all got from CIP had a lot of that information in it as well. The CIP books.
I have one of the books. You gave me a book.
Right, and a lot of that, in fact, some of the answers to some of your questions were in there. Some of the questions that you asked that first night were actually answered that first night as well. I don't know, maybe you just couldn't hear them from your position in the room, but a lot of that vehicle information, for instance, is in those books. I mean, we reviewed that as part of our process, so.
I know you're very conscientious, and if you would want to answer the questions, so it's a misunderstanding.
Okay.
Apologize. Okay, further public participation, yes.
John Matthews, Melrose Road. I'm also co-chairman of the Charter Revision Commission, and I see that you have on your agenda under old business discussion of the Charter Revision. Now, I haven't been privy as to what that discussion would be, so I thought I'd like to bring up this point. As you know, we've been meeting for about 6 months now. We're about halfway through our activity, and what we learned was that we had completely consumed the funds for a recording secretary, and that they needed to be replenished. Now, you people were kind enough to send a request to the Board of Finance to do that, and then I learned recently that that was turned down. So recognize that we're only halfway through. We do need a recording secretary. It's very important. The type of minutes that we put out are very informative. They range anywhere from 8 to 10, 11 pages, maybe as many as 4,000 words. The intent is to provide communication to anyone interested in what we're doing. So I'm looking for help. There is in the charter a section 7-1, paragraph G, that says that board members are not to be compensated, but they can be reimbursed for expenses incurred by the board. So what I need is approval by the Board of Selectmen to consider a recording secretary a legitimate expense of the Charter Revision Commission. Now, where the funds come from, I don't think you need to determine that. We're not talking about a lot of money here. we've got a $40 million budget, and we're talking 1% of 40 million would be 400,000. 1% of that would be 4,000. We're looking for about 1,300. I forget the exact number. So what I need from you folks is to approve the expense that we will, the reimbursement of expense that we will incur as members of the Charter Revision Commission. So I hope you can do that when that item comes up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Further public participation. Yeah.
Keith Dagloff on Depot Street. I had two things. First, the 250th anniversary money, I'm on the side of you should send money to charity. But I also think you made a mistake tonight in the sense that the town can't give town money to charities. The town can authorize to give money through grants or through organizations that are going to benefit, that you determine that will going to benefit the town, the people that live in the town. But sending money out to a charity directly from the town isn't the way to do it. You should give the money back to the organization and let them disperse. You're getting in a habit of saying, we're just going to send money to who? Send money to churches, send money to organizations that have to do with animals, send money to who knows where. And the town can't give town's money to charities. Unfortunately, maybe they should, but that's not something the town is authorized to do. So I think you should just check with the town treasurer and go through this process. And I think you're going to find that the correct method is to have the money dispersed directly have them write out the checks, or pass a resolution that says that you send the money back, but authorize the treasurer to cut those checks, because the town can't send money off to charities. The other issue is, I'm on the Charter Commission. One of the issues we've been talking about is the town administrator. We've come before you about that. That's something that another town nearby town has done. There's a lot of interest by people in the town to do that sort of thing. We want to communicate to everybody what's going on. Boards, my feeling is that when you have a board or commission or an organization that you want to do work, you should give them the adequate resources to do the work. And not to fund something, it's like not funding the fire department. You know, that's an issue that's going to come up. And I don't want to throw that whole thing in there, but you know, a decision was made not to fund the Warehouse Point Fire District. And that should be, and that's not tonight, that was in the past. That's an organization that supports the town. You can't make policy decisions financial decisions that are policy decisions. You first have to establish the policy, and then you make the financial decisions. This is a board that was established by the Board of Selectmen to do work. Not everybody has to agree with the work that's being done, or not everyone has to agree with the product. But at least at a minimum, you should support the process, so everybody can go through this process. And I was disappointed to see the Board of Finance didn't want to support it. It's just a recording secretary, so we can do our job. There's nothing to do with the product. It shouldn't have to do with the product. It's a town organization. So I think John's right. There's a mechanism to take care of that, just to get it funded. And if you don't fund it, then it's okay. We just won't have any minutes. They won't be posted online. And when people complain that they don't know what's going on and they don't understand what's happening, it's not going to be the fault of the commission. It's going to be the fault of the fact that the town doesn't want to support the generation of minutes. And they should. And just because somebody doesn't like something doesn't mean that they shouldn't support the process. Anyway, those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, further public participation. Paul.
Let Marie go first.
Marie goes first.
Marie Souza, 10 Rice Road, Bradford. Two things. One, say thank you for those people that voted to do what was originally voted on, to let the 250th anniversary committee, after they spent the $10,000 and they went out as volunteers and got an additional $45,000 to do as they told people when they were soliciting the funds. If they had anything left over, they would give it to charities. I think if you look at the list, they're all local charities in town. I think some of them, even Park and Rec, and I think I saw that was on the list. I'm sure you guys got it there. We have to, if there's a concern on whether or not the motions that you guys are passing are not accurate, then maybe you need to do some research before you pass the motions, because what it does, it takes good volunteers, and you have a good group of volunteers for that 250th. That for the last couple of weeks I've heard they've been embarrassed and they've been insulted. and that's not fair to volunteers. Same thing with the lack of communication, the misunderstanding of communication. You have somebody sitting here in front of me that has been volunteering in this town for years, and then her credibility was questioned tonight. We gotta do better than that. And the other thing is, as far as the minutes for the charter revision, I was at a meeting here when they asked for an additional appropriation because they wanted to send out a mailing and a questionnaire. And at that time, it was brought up that, are you gonna have enough money to go forward? And I know there was some discussion on that. I sat on the Board of Selectmen when we ran short on money, and I actually had to take minute meetings for Linda Roberts as a volunteer. I didn't get compensated for it. I sat on other boards and commissions in town, especially the Board of Finance, when we had our budget workshops and we wanted to keep track of it. All those meetings were done by the members of that board for zero. And it's unfortunate that you didn't stay within your budget. And I don't know the reason for that, and it's really none of my concern at this point. But we give everybody a budget for a reason. And I believe that the Board of Selectmen did their due diligence and didn't authorize it to go. Maybe you could put out there and ask somebody if they would be willing to volunteer. And the only thing you have to do by law, so say you're not going to provide minutes as a group, I think that's against the law, and you can check that out because it says that you have 24 hours and 2 feet of information, and that's going to be a lawsuit if you don't put minutes. So the only thing you have to do is motions. The only thing it says, you got to provide motions. And how many motions do you make at a meeting? No motions were done. And if you don't want to get your information and your discussion out to the public, well, that's on that commission. You can't put that back on the Board of Selectmen for doing their due diligence. Thank you.
Paul?
Paul Anderson, 89 Main Street. Same two subjects, okay. Charter revision, they do a great job, in my opinion. Been there, attended meetings. It's my understanding that originally they requested sufficient funding, but it got cut. I don't know if that's a fact. I don't have that history, but that's my understanding. They asked for approximately $3,000 to be able to have a recording secretary for the number of meetings they had to hold, and they only got $1,500. Now, I don't know if that's true, but there was a big discussion on Facebook. I can give that for what it's worth. I had to opt out of that discussion because it's like talking to a brick. Everybody's got their stand and they refuse to listen. So, but I think it should be funded. I think the town has an obligation to pay for things that it wants done. Where the money comes from, that's your problem. As a taxpayer, I think things should be funded to do the job correctly. So if more money is needed, they need the more money. That's my personal opinion. Okay, on the 250th, I think exactly what was done tonight was the correct thing to do. That is not general fund taxpayer money at this point in time, and hasn't been since that first check was issued. That is a separate account, and the treasurer, because we were a town committee handling the checking to pay for the bills, we don't have checks. So if you gave us the money, we couldn't use it. We don't want to touch the money. And that's been a rule since day one. We don't touch the money. All we do is bring it in. And it's managed through an account that was established for that committee. And that's where the checks will come from. It doesn't require any effort on anybody's part to pick up checks. That's all it is. And because they're Town of East Windsor checks, it has to go through this board to sign off on the check register. Well, then you get to review it again. I failed to see any problem. I think exactly what was done tonight was the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public participation? Okay. Going on to board, commission, and resignations and appointments. Somebody want to make some motions?
I move to reappoint Michael Scalzo to the Ethics Commission for, as a regular member for a term expiring on January 24th, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to reappoint Gil Hayes as a representative for the town on the Greater Hartford Transit District as a regular member for a term expiring February 1st, 2023.
Second? I'll second it. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. I move to reappoint Victor DeCapua and Robert Dynack as regular members of the Veterans Commission for terms ending February 1st, 2023.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Unfinished business. Discussion of charter revision. I, too, looked into the compensation for the Charter Revision Commission, and I think it should be funded, too. And one thing that, in addition to just letting people know what's going on in the Charter Revision Commission, obviously, you know, the charter is the rules for how our town is governed, and oftentimes our charter is used in legal proceedings, and what is actually said in the charter is sometimes argued in court. One lawyer will say, no, this paragraph means one thing, and then somebody else will say, no, the paragraph means another thing. And it's kind of critical. It's very important that the reasoning that the people who made the charter or the revisions to the charter and put the line items on the referendum to be voted on, and the town voted on it, what they meant by some of those changes. So that's another very important reason to have that being recorded. And there is a section 7.1, General Powers and Procedures, Records Requirements for Appointed Boards and Commissions, and Section G of that, so it's Section 7.1G. It says, compensation prohibited. No member of any appointed board shall receive compensation for services as such a member, except for reimbursement of necessary expenses authorized by the Board of Selectmen or as provided by law. So what I'd like to do, and what I will do, is give the Board of Finance another opportunity to fund the Charter Revision Commission. And so what I'm going to do is I move to authorize the reimbursement of the necessary expenses of the Charter Revision Commission for a recording secretary for the 2 meetings a month for the remainder of the fiscal year.
Should we put in there as per section 7.0?
Yeah, as per section, sure.
As per section 706, whatever, in the existing charter.
Okay, so I'll amend that motion, and this is the motion I'll make. I move to authorize the reimbursement of the necessary expenses of the Charter Revision Commission for a recording secretary for the 2 meetings a month for the remainder of the fiscal year as per section 7-1G of the existing charter, town charter.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion?
I have a question. Can an individual member be reimbursed for an expense that's appropriated to to a board? I mean, the intention of that is clearly to say, we don't have enough copies of the agenda at a meeting at the high school, so I'm gonna run down to Kinko's and run copies of the agenda. And you're gonna pay me back for that. That's clearly what the intention of that is.
And that's interesting that you're bringing up the intention, the intention of a paragraph in the town charter. So you're saying,
Oh,
it's
go
not
ahead.
the
I'll do
words,
that.
but it's the intention.
Yeah,
And so that's all the more reason why we should fund the discussion, is so when people disagree on the intention of a paragraph, then we can go back to the people who changed the charter and see what they intended.
however, the Freedom of Information Act is very clear on what is required and what is not required in meeting minutes that are posted pertaining to public organizations.
True.
And that very clear intention is you need to record who's in attendance, the time of convening and adjourning, the votes that were taken, and the vote tallies on those votes. That's what's required. I've taken meeting minutes.
Well, but then again, you think that would stand up in court when you say, well, we did our job, we...
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely, and we didn't really say why we made this decision, but we told you the decision we made and who voted for it. So,
Absolutely.
well, there you go.
You tell them what the decision was,
Yeah.
and then what the vote was. That's absolutely what you do.
No, I know that means freedom of information, but even here, we sometimes put a little more in the minutes than just what the motions were. And
That's
we
right.
do it for public disclosure.
And there's a distinction with the things that need to be included in things like land use matters, which actually are in court deliberations versus the Agriculture Commission. It's not the same, the scale and degree are not the same.
Do you have a point that you're trying to make?
Wow. This to me is another attempt to undermine a check and a balance that's put in place on an item that was voted on by the voters. This was, the voters decided when they affirmatively passed the budget in May of last year, how much they wanted to fund that.
That's not true. Because when the budget was put forth in May, we had not yet put together the charter commission. So there was no commission to fund when we were passing the charter, passing the budget last year.
I haven't had the budget.
But I think that's irrelevant.
Whether or not the voters voted on it, that's very relevant.
Whether, the budget, in the budget, there's zero for the Charter Revision Commission because they didn't ask for it. The Charter Revision Commission didn't exist. So I recall you didn't want to start it until presidential election, I believe.
That is true. The FY19 budget for the Charter Revision Commission was $1,500. The same as what was, that's the adopted according to the budget document put out by your office.
That is interesting.
Well, it's right here.
Well, I'd be interested to see it.
The request was for 3,000, and when I attended that meeting with the Board of Finance,
Now,
they first,
was that a budget meeting though?
no, it was a request for the money.
No, we went with this, you'll find that's a supplemental appropriation that the Board of Finance made for that $1,500.
That was last year. To start up the study committee, that's what the supplemental appropriation was.
No, there was, so there's a difference there, but I think that's irrelevant. We want the money to pay for the charter revision for the rest of the fiscal year. That's what we want the money for, and that's what we're asking for.
Because they couldn't live within their appropriated budget.
No, if you want to say that, perhaps, but it's because they were underfunded from the beginning. And
So the voters made a mistake.
I don't think that's true. I disagree with what you're saying.
It's right, it's on page 1.
Well, I
The
think
Board
we
of
can
Finance
go,
first said 0.
let me see the page. Oh, that's not the budget.
Yes, it is. the adopted amount for the current fiscal year.
I don't agree with that.
Andy, you want to take a look at that?
No, I agree with what it says in that book, but I don't agree with, I think it's incorrect. I think it's stated wrong. I think what that says is that's the amount that was spent this year.
Nope.
Okay.
That's the adoption.
Okay, but nonetheless, I will reread that motion that I made, because I think in the motion I made is I move to authorize a reimbursement of the necessary expenses of the Charter Revision Commission for the recording secretary for 2 meetings a month for the remainder of the fiscal year as per section 7-1G of the existing town charter. And that's the motion I made, and that's what I'm requesting, and I think Charlie seconded it. And you're saying that your argument against voting for this motion is that you think, and you say that you have evidence that $1,500 that $1,500 was given to them at the budget, and so that's a good argument for not voting for it. But I think the better argument for voting for it is that the committee needs, that's necessary funding that the committee needs. And I'm giving the Board of Finance an opportunity to give them that money, the necessary money they need.
So how many members are on the commission? I've not been to one of their meetings.
I believe there's 10, is that correct?
I don't know why we would put an even number. But,
I do.
Why did we put an even number?
Because we didn't want it to be a one-person decision. We thought this was an important enough thing. So if some part of the charter was changed, there would be at least, it would be a 6-4 vote.
All right. So of the 10 members, nobody can take minutes? Why not?
So another argument for not voting for this is because you're saying somebody there should.
I'm saying that has been the past practice on many boards over many years.
Very interesting. You have made two very good points.
So what's the response?
Steve.
By law, getting a cold or something here. By law, we're supposed to look at the charter every so many years, correct?
Every 5.
Okay. And we either make changes or we don't, right?
Correct.
So if this is something we have to do, then as far as I'm concerned, we're obligated to supply them the recording secretary. We're obligated here to this.
We did.
Okay, we don't need to argue.
We're not.
I'm not arguing.
The thing is, they need
Okay.
a little more money to finish the job, just like any other department that comes in here and they need extra money because they ran out of money and we can't do, same thing here.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Jason.
So thinking ahead, the next time that there is a particular project, what's to stop a particular body from not submitting a budget request at all, and then just saying, well, now you need to reimburse us for something you never budgeted for?
Are there any other comments?
Nothing? So that is what, somebody's going to point to this, just as they're going to point to the charter. Somebody's going to point to this and say, you did it in this case. Why is it different for me?
If anybody else has anything they want to say, do you want to keep talking, Jason?
So there is no response. You have no answer to that, is what I'm gleaning.
I do not choose to answer that question.
So you don't have an answer?
Hey, Bob, you have a hand on the...
Can I just
Yes.
address something? I don't know if anyone watches Peg. I've been watching her for the last 5 minutes because we've been having this discussion. And she is writing shorthand, nonstop.
Yep.
She's been going to do this for 2 hours tonight, writing everything that's people's positions, because she's going to take that back and she's going to convert that shorthand into the debate that you're having tonight. so that your minutes, when someone opens up your minutes, they can see what position, you asked for correction tonight, Jason. You said I didn't say farm, business, I said business. And she is writing down for 2 hours, and she's getting paid a fee, and she gets, every one of these people that does this work is getting paid the same fee, and it takes her, she told us, 2 to 3 hours for every hour that she's here at a meeting. So she's going to put in 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours after this meeting, and 2 hours here tonight, and if you watch her, you will see nonstop writing the entire meeting. Now, so that she can have accurate minutes for the public to know what's happened tonight in terms of the pros and cons, the yes and no's, the public debate, the public comment, everything that people say. So people that want to come and understand what's happening with your meetings can read it and will know exactly what's happening. She does it at our meetings. Now, I've taken minutes from committees. I've taken committee meetings. I sit on my computer and I'll write maybe a page as the debate goes on, and I'm pretty good with the computer, and I'll take all the motions, and I volunteer for that for my committees. That's not what she does for the benefit when she's there. This is nonstop work, it's intensive work. She probably gets paid $12 an hour at the end of the day for her work, and I'm just, it's not just pay, it's the other people that serve these committees. This commission needs that kind of work, because Bob is right. You know, there are, this is a legal process that we've discussed in terms of the process. There are deadlines. Another town just violated their deadlines, which killed their referendum, which killed their charter vote, because they failed to do things appropriately. The minutes capture all of that and the understanding. I just want everyone to appreciate what we're asking for. It's what Peg is doing right now for this group. It's the hard work that she's putting in, and it's compensation for someone like her. And that's what we're asking for. And it's not anything, we're not trying to do anything other than exactly what she's doing for your minutes. And yes, it's a fair debate. Do you need it or not? Is this board and commission needed or not? But this
Under the law, what's the answer to that?
Do you need to have those minutes under FOIA?
Beyond motions and votes.
FOIA says you need to have the motions, and you need to have the votes, you need the start time and the stop time, you need to know if you have a quorum, you need to have those basic things.
So I covered it.
Correct, but that's not what organizations in town, boards and commissions, responsible boards and commissions do. I think the Board of Finance does that, perhaps. I mean, that's their decision. They don't want to have debate. The Board of Selectmen has debate. The Charter Review Commission feels it's essential to have the debate captured so that the public will know what the issues are and what they're doing. But you're right, the minimum is just, you're right, Jason, absolutely. And I agree with the pros and cons. Everyone has a right to debate these issues. But I just wanted to point out, I'm just sitting here watching Peg, and I'm amazed that she's taking shorthand for 2 hours nonstop, and people don't seem to appreciate it. No, I'm not saying any of you don't, because you're sitting here doing it. People do not appreciate the fact of what she's doing, and then she has to convert that shorthand to the minutes. And to me, it's amazing, and I think it's a bargain, and I don't think that that should be part of the issue. Not that you raised it. I'm raising it in a positive way. Okay?
I don't think it was raised.
Well, I'm saying positive way. That's what you're paying for. That's what we're asking you to pay for. It's what she's doing for you tonight.
Okay, Dick?
Oh, thank you. I think you're barking up the wrong tree doing it the way you're doing it. Do we need it? Yeah, we need it. You know what to do? Call a town meeting, ask for an added appropriation for X many dollars you need, and let the voters vote for it, and then it's legit. The way you guys are doing it is backdooring it.
Mm-hmm.
Use the charter the way it's designed and written. If you go back to the voters for an added appropriation at a town meeting duly called, then it's over.
Yep.
Can't do that.
Yeah, I don't think that's in the charter,
Call a
Dick.
town meeting.
The Board of Selectmen cannot, the Board of Selectmen does not have authority to ask for a special appropriations at town meeting. It must go from Board of Selectmen to Board of Finance. The only group in this town that can ask for a special appropriation at a town meeting.
Okay, but that would, fine, and go to the Board of Finance.
But I said no.
Right.
No, and request a town meeting. They
Okay,
can
I think,
request
okay,
a
let's
town
not have
meeting.
we're getting into a back and forth.
Sorry.
Yeah, Marie?
Marie, this is the Penrice Road Forever. Mr. Anderson Jason over here commented about some of the debates that was going on Facebook, and one of the ideas that came up when people were talking about the fact that there wasn't an added appropriation for them was to bring the meetings to town hall and have them videoed. And this way, all the conversations and everything would be on tape, and that could be used and secured, and that the motions then would be a hard copy to town hall, and that certainly would save a lot of time, effort, and energy on the minutes. And you would have, if there was anything that come up in the court of law, you would have to play to state what transpired. And I don't think the debate has anything to do with the individual that's taking the minutes, because that could change tomorrow. You could have somebody else taking minutes. But I just think it's been the practice in town that you stay within your budget. And I believe the charter revision already has come for one added appropriation in order to do the mailing. And if that is what happened, then this would be the second appropriation. And being a second appropriation, I believe the way it's written, it would have to come to town meeting anyways.
Okay, we've heard from the, all right.
Just 2 points. We did a survey. We had, in that survey, we had 300 responses. And the response that rose to the very top was a lack of communication within the town. So I got thinking about that. You know, the charter needs to emphasize that needs to be done in minutes that just show the motion and the vote are not communicating to the town. And if you go through one of our boards, you can see a dozen motions, discussion, none, and then the vote. Next motion, discussion, none, and then the vote. What are we learning? I can understand that people say, we have issues with communication. All right, let me go through the math. When you enabled this commission, you stated in that motion that we were to have 2 meetings a month, and we were to be in position for 18 months. If you take 2 a month, that's 24 a year. We pay our secretary $125. That is $3,000. That is what we requested. And that is not what we got. And we are on schedule for that $3,000. Not, we can't do the job for $1,500. You can't do 2 meetings a month, pay $125, and expect that you're going to be able to do it for $1,500.
Okay, so I'd say, unless there's more discussion amongst the Board of Selectmen members, then we'll vote. And Jason, you have your highlighter raised.
I do. I do have another, because we're policymakers, I have a non-financial objection to this as a concept, in that the fiduciary agents for the town have already opined. There's that. But also, there's a board appointed by this board who is trying to circumvent the decision of an elected body. That's a problem. That is not okay.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, I will vote. All those in favor of reimbursing the Charter Revision Commission for the necessary expenses for the rest of the fiscal year, say aye. Per section 7. This was just an overview of what the motion originally was. If you want me to read the original motion?
Yeah.
Okay. Move to authorize the reimbursement of the necessary expenses of the Charter Revision Commission for a recording secretary for 2 meetings a month for the remainder of the fiscal year as per section 7(1)G of the existing town charter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
And Andy?
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay. Thank you. Now, we go on to something good, a discussion of the casino. And well, I'll just say that 4 of us, sitting at the table, went to the public hearing at the LOB, at the, what's the name of it? The Public Safety and Security Commission. And the two tribal chairs were there, and Rodney Butler and Kevin Brown spoke, and they did a very good job. They were well received by many of the representatives at the table. There were 3 representatives that had negative things to say, like, was there a referendum done? And another one, is there any litigation? They kind of knew the answers, but so that was kind of discouraging. But then when I went home and thought about it a little bit, I didn't get so discouraged. I was saying, here these tribal leaders are coming and saying, we're going to give you 5,000 jobs, 2,000 being construction. That's for the state and the town and the region. We're going to give you 3,000 permanent jobs, and they actually broke out to where they would try to get the workers from. And we're going to give you $70 million in state revenue. So that's what we're offering you. And so I think that's a positive spin. And so I guess what I'll do now, and you guys can talk later, because in the back is David Capiello, a representative to the, and also, I'll interrupt myself, we're called the Tribal Winds now. We got a name for the casino. We're not the East Windsor Casino, we're the Tribal Winds. So, and David, maybe you could say something, and I guess you're going to introduce someone.
Sure.
Dave, you've been here long enough tonight to be a town resident, you know that.
I appreciate it.
The poor guy lives in Newtown. It's as far away as you can get.
It's okay, I don't want to go. First, good news that you mentioned that we have a name, Tribal Winds, and you know, that was a name that was given a lot of thought by a lot of folks because it talks about the heritage of the 2 tribes, but also ties in the name of East Windsor. And so we were all excited when the name was finally announced, and with the new logo, with the drawings. So we were ready to go. As you know, there's still an issue with the Bureau of Affairs. But you might also have read that the Secretary of the Interior, who had given us a little bit of a hard time, I would say, is now gone. He's been removed from that position. There's a new appointment that the President has made, or a nominee that he's putting forward. So we're hopeful that there will be a decision made in the near future that will be positive to deal with the other half of the equation. If you remember that the Bureau of Affairs and the Department of the Interior were supposed to publish the deemed approval status for the 2 compact amendments, the Mohegan Compact and the National Pequot procedures. And in the end, they ended up publishing in the National Register the Mohegan Compact Amendment, but not the National Pequot Amendment. And they gave an answer that we strongly disagree with. So we're hopeful that the new department secretary will make that change and we can start the project forward. If not, there is also a bill in the legislature, Senate Bill 11, that's a bipartisan, bicameral bill that says we're going to remove that requirement to have to go to the Bureau of Indian Affairs for approval. And so we're hopeful that if Washington, D.C. doesn't do the right thing, the legislature will come together and do this so we can get this project moving. And your delegation has been phenomenal. Obviously, you had someone who, your state senator was a big help. Our party is no longer here. But you know, your 2 representatives are still working extremely hard on your behalf. The delegation from the area and both parties is very supportive. So we're very fortunate, you're very fortunate to have folks up here in this area who are supportive. And as are the Eastern Connecticut delegation. You know, they have so many employees, they have positive experiences from both the Mohegan and Mashantucket Pequot tribes and their casinos. So we're excited that we have something to fight for this year. Again, we're hoping that we don't need to fight for that bill in Hartford, but we are anyways. You know, if the BIA does the right thing, we don't need the bill anymore. And I think that's
in a nutshell, we had the hearing in front of the Public Safety Committee, and the two tribal chairs are just, each one of them is dynamic on their own. Together, they are a force to be reckoned with. It is so much fun to watch them together partnering on this project. So we are still excited, we're still fighting, and we're hoping this will be done soon. Frankly, if there was no engagement, if MGM did not get involved in Washington, D.C. 2 years ago, when the compact amendments went down to D.C., this would almost be built by now. And it's frustrating for us, and I know it's frustrating for all of you, but we appreciate all of your support, and might be calling on your support again when that bill has a public hearing. We'd love to have people come up and testify in favor of it. Finally, I want to introduce a new member of our team, Jonathan Ferrigno, who's in the back. He is now with MMCT, and Jonathan has been in state government for the last several years. He was working for the Speaker of the House for the last 4 years, Jonathan. Yep. But decided to come on this side of the aisle of the ropes in Hartford, and he's been a great asset to our team.
Glad to meet you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you have any questions on that?
Yeah, and I cut you off, so any selectmen want to say anything?
Well, it was impressive when I went there, and the questions that they were asked and the responses that they gave, they were so sure-footed as to everything that they were explaining, so it left no questions for the people that were asking those questions. They didn't walk anybody around the park. It was very direct, and the one person that did ask the question about putting up $70 million in advance, and the response was, well, when we start this, they've already guaranteed the state $30 million. Correct. That was an excellent response for that. So I felt confident when I left there that this will move forward, because all the other legislators that were there, except for those couple, were in favor. Very complimentary of everybody.
And there are good people who serve on both sides of the aisle in Hartford, and even some of the folks that have not been with us traditionally, the good people are just coming from a different perspective. But we're hopeful that, through all of our meetings, that most people will see things our way this year. Again, absent the VIA. If the VIA deals with our issue, then we're done. We can just get this project going. There are other issues that we're talking about in Hartford as well, the tribes that have come up that we're still going to be lobbying on. But let's keep our fingers crossed for the Department of Interior, and if not, we'll be calling on you to try and come out and support us at the public hearing so we can get this project. Yes, sir.
One of the things that's been talked about quite a bit is the concept of sports betting. If sports betting were to go forward, what, if any, impact would that have on operations at Tribal Winds once it's built?
It really depends on how the bill is drafted. I will say that last year there were some bills that were drafted that would have encompassed both the tribal casinos and MMCT if they chose to put something here. So if it were in the Tribal Winds Casino, it would only enhance the casino and enhance the foot traffic. So it would only be a positive. But I don't know what the legislation is going to look like in the end. There are a lot of ideas out there floating around. There are many, many different perspectives on sports betting. And really nothing's ever a fait accompli in Hartford. Even though everyone's talking about sports betting, sometimes we are the land of steady habits here, and it takes time to get things going, even when other communities around us, or other states around us are moving fast and furious. But I do think Governor Lamont, he seems to be saying in public that he would like to move sports betting forward. This is a big positive. Because I think you'll have, when he leads, I think many legislators will follow.
Dave, do you see those two issues being tied together, the casino here in town and sports betting, that they would be interdependent?
It's hard to tell. I mean, to me, it's a separate issue, getting this,
I would think so also.
But in Hartford, there's 151 representatives and 36 senators, and of course the governor. So it's hard to say how legislation will look in the end.
When we talked in December, you thought the shortest path to getting approval was going through the state legislature and removing the line that talked about needing Bureau of Indian Affairs approval. It seems like you're now saying maybe the shortest path is through the feds.
Well, back in December, Secretary Zinke was still the secretary.
But on his way out.
But we weren't sure. We weren't sure. And what I have read, there was a Washington Post article from January 3rd that said, and I don't have, we have had no communication, so I don't know, but they seemed, it implied in that story that our issue, the Inspector General referred our issue to the Department of Justice because the Inspector General, according to the story, thought that Secretary Zinke may not have been telling the truth.
Yep.
Speaking of the Inspector General. So,
I saw that.
So again, back in December, he was still there, and I wasn't as hopeful. But I have to be hopeful now that with the new appointment and with what appears to be a staff, at the parliamentary who supports us. We had 2 technical assistance letters under Obama and under Trump that said this is really, for lack of a better term, a no-brainer. So I'm hopeful that that decision will be made and we don't have to worry about that decision. But we're still going on parallel tracks.
Okay, nothing further. We'll move on to the next agenda.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks for coming.
And before we do that, there's been a group of people here waiting patiently, and I wonder if we can take them out of order just as we did before. And I would make a motion to listen to the presentation of the Connecticut Trolley Museum Isle of Safety campaign, and that's item 11B. Could we, and I move to take them next. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So you're up.
Okay, we will step forward.
Do you want a chair?
No.
All right.
We've been sitting for a while.
Okay.
Good to see you.
I don't know how you guys are. Hi, Andy. How are you?
Good.
We have
So,
We have some graphics.
yes.
yeah, we'll get this done in about
You can't quit, can you?
Yeah.
You can't quit, can you?
If you go by our rapid pace, it should be done by dawn.
for getting us on board. So I will introduce myself. My name is Mike Speciale. I'm a volunteer with the Connecticut Trolley Museum. I'm the retired executive director of the New England Air Museum. So I've gone from airplanes to trolleys, but planes, trains, I'll do automobiles next.
Yeah. No,
I am ably assisted by 2 other volunteers, Dulcie Giadoni, who is the museum grant writer. And Dulcie's been highly successful in, actually, we have 2 capital projects, and we've completed one. One was the restoration of an historic trolley car to running condition. It was a $130,000 project. Dulcie has gotten all the money. So now we're on to the next topic here, our next capital project. That's the Isle of Safety, which is the structure that sits right at the front of the Trolley Museum. Bob Rosenberg worked as a volunteer for me at the Air Museum. He is the retired Director of Facilities and Capital Construction, everything at Pratt Whitney building. Bob was in charge. Bob is the coordinator of this project. We are attempting to raise $175,000. This will restore the Isle of Safety, landscape it, put in some walkways. It'll be a great entrance to the museum. We're also going to commemorate its stay in Hartford with an outdoor pictorial exhibit at the old State House courtyard, 30 feet from where it was. And we're going to outline it on the brick walkway at State House Square, indicating its original location. So we're in the process of raising the money now. We have $39,000 on hand. We're working on the rest. But I'm going to defer here to Bob, who's the project coordinator. He's researched the history of the Isle. He's researched the history, and he's put together the plan of the budget. So I'm not going to talk anymore. So Bob Rosenberg, tell us all about it.
Jason, do you have a question?
He said you've raised 30,000. I missed how much the total project was going to cost.
175.
175. Thank you.
For those of you that don't know the history of the Isle of Safety, it was originally constructed in 1913 for the grand total of $2,163. Interesting enough, during the scrounging around looking for information, I went to the Department of Public Works, and this is the original drawing of the Isle of Safety that was submitted in 1913. So we actually have enough documentation, so when the restoration gets done, it'll get done to a configuration that was identical to the way it was in 1913. These two pictures, and for those of you that can't see them, these are two pictures of the Isle of Safety in 1913 and 1924. For some of you that are more senior, and you may remember it being in Hartford. The Isle of Safety, as I said, was originally constructed in 1913. It stayed in Hartford until 1975 when they reconstructed the whole State House area. It was then moved to the corner of Ann and Trumbull Street, where it stood until 1985, and it was used for vendors and contractors. City Place 2 is where is at a corner of Ann and Trumbull, and it then had to get moved again. It was going to get destroyed, but the people at the Trolley Museum latched onto it, and they moved it up to there in 1985, and it's been there since. It has, since 1985, or 1988 actually, when it finally got constructed, it has deteriorated to the point where it needs some major work to it. We've identified the contractors to do it. We have an architect on board, and we have all the ducks in place other than all the money. Dulcie, do you have the file?
Yep.
The real interesting thing about this is, is the roof tiles that are on there were made by an outfit that is now in Ohio called Ludowici. They've been in business for 400 years. They're still in business. And the tiles that we're going to use, and this is an example, is a Ludowici tile, so it'll be identical to the ones that were originally on Isle of Safety back in 1913. So we have enough information to go forward to have a structure that will truly represent the Isle of Safety as it was back in 1913. A lot of the structure has to be replaced. About 50% of it can be salvaged, and the rest of it will be duplicated by the contractor that we've identified that will take some of the existing structure and reproduce it, remanufacture it. So to the best of our knowledge, it'll be back, the wood structure and the corbels, the roofs, the lights, and all the accessories around it will be as close as we can get it to 1913.
In terms of the actual structure, how much of it will be original, how much of it will be restored, how much of it will be replaced?
About 50-50. But 50% of it is beyond repair. The rest of it we think we can salvage.
Is there a time schedule that is forced by its structural integrity? Is it going to fall down on you?
It's not going to fall down, but we need to get it done pretty quick. And the answer to the question is, as soon as we have the money, we're going to start it. We're probably looking at in the late spring to have some of the money so we can start it. Hopefully we can get it done sometime this year before the weather's got to break in order for us to get back in there to do something.
So we will keep you posted on our progress. Raising money now. We've got the campaign underway. I'm not sure if you guys got this stuff. I'll pass it out. It's got the story about the campaign and the history of it. Who did not get one?
I don't know if somebody asked a question or not about this, but I thought I read somewhere recently in the past few months that Hartford wants to recreate the Isle of Safety again. Is that correct or not correct?
Partially correct. There was a move afoot back a while ago to move it back from East Windsor up back into Hartford.
Oh.
That didn't go very far because there was nobody and they wanted to move it back to the state, in the area of the State House, and there just wasn't any real estate there. So after a lot of questions and a lot of people looking around, they decided it just wasn't going to happen.
Oh.
So it keeps coming up, but it's not going, our opinion, it's not going anyplace. Everybody that's involved said it's going to stay where it is, and we'll make a connection between East Windsor and Hartford, so everybody understands. It's a piece of history. It's a piece of,
It certainly is.
of Americana, if you will.
Could the city of Hartford, by agreement that they, when they gave it to the Trolley Museum, could they reclaim it? Or is it yours?
It's ours.
See,
It belongs to the Trolley Museum. You know, it's kind of nice in that in 1913 it was used as a shelter for trolley car passengers. Being used as a shelter for trolley car passengers. So as we raise the money, the good news is we probably have the best public relations firm in Hartford helping us, Sullivan and Lashane, and Dennis House of Channel 3 is our honorary campaign chairman. So that will lend some horsepower to the campaign as we look for money.
Mike, you're a magician with the Hartford Institute of Public Giving. Are you got your hand out there, have you?
We've got some money from them, and we're talking to people. Yeah,
Okay.
we're talking to people. It's you know, it's never easy, but if it were easy, it wouldn't be any fun. So we like to have fun. All right, so
Thank you for coming.
posted.
Thank you, yeah.
Very interesting.
And again, if I live long enough, after the Isle of Safety, we'll repave the whole parking lot over there, and the whole place will be the best trolley museum in the world. It's already the oldest incorporated trolley museum in the United States. So the volunteers there are working very hard, and our aim is to give them a hand and support.
They always do.
The casino can go to the trolley museum.
Yeah, we're going to have a trolley
There's
that goes from the railroad station in Windsor BOS right to the casino to your trolley museum. It's going to have rubber tires though.
Okay, and again, I'll promote, we have a manager there who's doing a great job, Gina Maria Alberti. I think the better you work with her, and whatever you can do to support her would be appreciated. She's doing a terrific job. She's the only staff person, so that's why we have volunteers to help.
Okay.
We know all about volunteers. Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, the next agenda item is the discussion of the sale of the Grace Church. And I don't have a lot to say other than we didn't get someone else bought the property, yes.
Another church bought it.
Yeah, I don't know the price they paid, but it'd be interesting to find that out. Well, it'll be in the land records, I guess. If there's no more discussion, we'll go on to 10E, discussion of the ordinance establishing a tax exemption for farm buildings. And what you have in your packet is something that's been approved by the assessor and approved by the attorney. So we're kind of ready to approve the ordinance.
Okay, so last time we had some discussion about changing the amounts or whatever, but this is by state statute to do.
Exactly.
Leave it the same.
Yeah.
The issue of that Schedule F viewer.
Yeah, in fact, I got the state statute here. It's
Get in on it, you said this.
section 1291.
Make sure it's just farmers.
Yeah, in order to get a Schedule F exemption, you have $3,000 in gross sales anyway. So it's effectively setting the threshold. It's gotta be a real
So,
farmer.
can I make a motion?
Okay, yeah. You want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'm good.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the ordinance establishing a tax exemption for farm buildings.
And send it to a town meeting.
Send it to a town meeting.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, discussion of budget workshops. We probably should have scheduled an additional workshop or two. And so I'm going to look for some dates from you, what might be good. Our last date is the 21st of February.
Is this your book of mine?
That's yours. Maybe it's mine. Oh, that's mine.
Is it?
Yeah, I've stolen your book.
You stole my book.
I did. I have some calendars in here. I'm looking for those. So the 21st is Thursday. Let's see if we can go after that. Do you want to do anything the week of the 24th? Because it's the 25th is a Monday, the 26th is the Tuesday, 27th, 28th. They're all free, it looks like. Nothing scheduled.
I got down here, Bob, that we're talking about the 12th and the 19th.
Yeah, we still have to do the 12th and the 19th.
Okay.
And the 21st.
6 p.m.
Excuse me, isn't the 26th your special election? Yes.
You're right. We can't use this room, so that's no good. And they'll probably set it up on the 25th. So those 2 dates are out.
Oh, the 27th?
Yeah. Wednesday, the 27th. You want to do Thursday, the 28th, too, just to?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what are we doing here, 27 and 28?
Yeah.
6 o'clock?
Yeah.
So you're putting in February 27th?
Yeah, February 27th and 28th. Thanks, Peg. Good catch.
And they're at 6?
At 6.
Okay. And what days are those? You know?
Yeah. I do know. That's a Wednesday's the 27th, the 28th is a Thursday.
Okay.
So what time did you say?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Okay. Now, something that Karen Gordeau's been waiting for patiently. You probably know that there's a problem with our pension plan. And there's a particular section in the pension plan that's called suspension of benefits. And it reads, the current pension plan reads like this. If a participant continues employment with the town after reaching his or her normal retirement date, or retired or former employee isn't reemployed by the town, benefits payable to such a participant or retired former eligible employee under the plan shall be suspended during the period of such employment or reemployment as applicable. Well, Karen has, our new registrar, was employed by the town. She was the town clerk, and she gets a pension. And so this would prevent her from getting the pension as long as she was being paid as a town clerk, which is a part-time position. So we went to, Amy and I went to George Kaplan, who's our pension lawyer, and said, can we write this in such a way that it would allow Karen and actually other retirees to come back and work part-time here. We have Maureen Bauer is going to retire, and, so we'd like her to maybe come back part-time too. So, in your package was the words that George Casper wrote, I think, and his words. You know, it says, notwithstanding any provision in this plan to the contrary, and subject to any required minimum distribution pursuant to section 10.5, if a participant continues employment with the town after reaching his or her normal retirement date, or retired or former employee is reemployed by the town, any benefits payable to such a participant or retired or former employee under the plan shall be suspended during the period of such employment or reemployment as applicable, provided, however, that such a participant, including elected officials whose works less than 1,000 hours or annually, may be continued to receive their benefit payments. So this would allow us to pay a part-time person who works less than 1,000 hours.
Half a year,
Yeah.
half a man year.
So I would make a motion to change the town of East Windsor pension plan as amended and restated effective January 1st, 2009, paragraph 512, suspension of benefits, to read in its entirety as I just read.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Does the phrase here, where the heck did I read? The second line, employment with the town after reaching his or her normal retirement date. I don't know if that needs to be tightened up, that it said.
It's defined in the plan.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good.
Okay, so
Moving on.
is there any, okay, so if there's no more discussion, all those in favor?
Wait. Are you pausing your pension? Is that what this is doing?
This would now, my pension would be suspended as long as I was getting paid as registrar.
Without this change.
Right now, she's not getting paid.
Right now, I haven't been paid since I took office.
Can we take a 90-second break?
Sure.
Okay. I'll be right back.
This is pretty typical. I retired from UTC and received benefits from the retirement program. They hired me back as a consultant, and it had no effect on my benefits program at all.
No, I think this is,
reasonable.
we had George Casper, who's an expert in pensions, review it, so I don't know what Jason's talking about, but we'll see.
And we stand by it.
Hey, you guys need to turn the heat on in this joint.
We do.
I'm getting cold.
The air conditioning goes on, Tom.
I'm trying to refresh.
So they put the
I know you guys are trying to keep it from falling asleep.
Open up the doors, let the heat in.
Here.
What do I do with my shopping?
69 degrees here, and it's set for 69.
The air conditioner goes on automatically at 9 o'clock.
Yeah. Huh?
Those cold days, you got, it's cold in there?
Oh, it's probably warmer outside.
So I open up the doors and all the heat comes and heats up the building.
Yeah, you guys don't use it, huh? You got nothing.
Oh, yeah. I got hot air furnace, I heat that whole building.
Oh, you do?
I don't want to run it.
What do you do with your water?
Huh?
What do you do with your water?
It never freezes in there. Really? Yeah. It never freezes in there.
That's surprising. Those metal buildings act like a refrigerator sometimes.
Yeah, but it's insulated.
Still, I mean, once the cold gets in it, it stays in. You know? I mean, right now, my cottage is 20 degrees.
Your what?
Our cottage at the lake is 20 degrees inside. There's frost on the inside.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do you have a fireplace or a wood stove or something?
On the roof.
Oh, you
area.
That basically
It travels around the building and it drops down.
Oh, okay.
So all your heat's up there anyway.
Yeah, all your heat's up there, yeah, it helps. Yes, I drain everything. I have no water in the cottage. It's drained.
Do you have a wood stove in the?
Are we ready to vote?
Nothing.
Get Jason in here? Or
Yeah,
vote
well,
without him?
I think, yeah, we're ready to vote. Okay, so I think we're ready to vote now, so we're going to vote to change that pension paragraph. So all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to discussion of name change request for human services to community services. And people, and in particular Melissa, would like to change the name from human services to community services. And Melissa's not the only one that wants to change this name. And the reason they want to change, the main reason, is their confusion between human services and human resources. We got one department called human services, one department called human resources. So people will call up human services asking for jobs, and there's even confusion within our town between human resources and human services. So like Melissa recently called the police department because she wanted some help with an individual, and they thought she was human resources. Human services. Also, the state, the state calls human services social services, which leads to some confusion. What they would like to change the name of the Human Services Department to Community Services. The Community Services Department. So there you have it.
But, well, I don't know, if somebody was looking for that type of help, would they think that community services would be the right?
Well,
you know, kind of like social services. I don't know why people get confused. Social services.
We could use, the state calls it social services. We could change it to social services. That'd be a compromise. But
I think that would be more in line with what they do.
Yeah. Okay.
To me, you know, community, you know,
But that doesn't incorporate the park and rec piece of it. They really want to change the name of human services.
It's just the one entity.
Just the one entity. They don't want to change they want Parks and Rec to be Parks and Rec, and social, and senior services to be senior center, human services. They wanted to change it to community services, but.
Only one segment of it. Just that
one department, yeah.
Okay. I just think social ties with the state, they're doing the same thing that they're doing in human services.
Okay. You want to make a motion then, Charlie?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay, wait a minute, yeah. Paul? Sure.
Before you decide on your own, maybe you want to go back to the original source and find out
All right.
if there's any problem with that.
We've been living with this for a long time. That's a good idea.
I don't like to see, well, we decided we're going to call it this, and there's a reason why that doesn't work.
Okay.
I'd rather have it work.
Yeah. I take your advice, so we'll postpone it if there's no objection. Okay. Entertain a motion to approve tax refunds.
I'll make a motion to approve tax refunds in the amount of $10,363.47.
Not mine, is it?
I wrote for your name.
Wow.
It's in part Steve's.
Huh?
It's in part Steve's.
Is there a second? Steve just seconded.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Selectmen reports. Jason?
It's been, just a few nights with you folks doing budget stuff. This weekend is Abby's winter gala at McGeely's. That's always a fun opportunity. And then on Monday night is the first meeting of the Youth Services Bureau.
I didn't know that.
Yep. So Melissa's put together her squad, and they're going to start getting to work on that project on Monday night.
Good. Charlie?
Nothing other than what I had mentioned before. Attending the hearing at the Capitol this past week. And I thought that was very strong grounds for them to approve it from all the questions that were asked, and the two chairmen that were there did a phenomenal job of responding to them. And I think most of the people that were there, the members of that committee, walked away with, you know, very positive experience from them. The state should just move ahead to approve that, in my opinion. It's a win for everybody.
I agree with you. Steve?
No, you spoke about us going down to the Capitol there, so there's no sense of rehashing it. But something really surprises me here. I'm actually on this listed for a tax refund.
Yeah, that's what I said.
How the hell does that happen? That's it. Yeah, we can go have a beer for $11.
You got $11.
Don't have to go $11 back.
We're not even going to get that.
I don't know why.
Andy?
The Economic Development Commission did not meet again. Something's got to be done to strengthen that commission. They just do not have enough people who have enough time to work on that. If Ruben's going to be the acting economic development professional, director, whatever you want to call him, he really is going to need some help. Other towns, and again, I talk from little experience, just conversations with other towns, they really do use an economic development commission to do legwork for that professional person. If Ruben is that professional person, he has no support currently. We have to find people who have time and interest in working that problem, and we don't have them today.
I agree with everything you said.
They haven't met in 3 months.
I agree.
There was one period when I was on the commission, and the reason that I resigned was we didn't meet for 6 months.
I agree.
So if anybody in town has ideas of people who would be willing to put in the time to help out, it would sure be a help to Reuben, I think.
I agree. Yeah.
Bob Lake is the only person on that committee for various reasons that appears to be available all the time.
Well, you know, I say the glass is half full, and what I'll say is we had this new economic, that EDC website coming. Maybe that'll spur some interest. Maybe we can use that to get some interest. So I think we gotta beat the bushes. We gotta get some people.
But Andy's right. You know, this isn't going to work unless we have that commission going like they do in other towns. I have a couple of people that I'm going to talk to as possible members of that. I think it would be good. And
I have one young friend who just retired from United Technologies. He's a very bright guy. He's moving into town, and as soon as he lights, I'm going to get after him to do something to help the town.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. And I have nothing, so I would move to go into executive session.
Okay, I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye. Just want to say one thing, that needs a professional. That position needs a professional. It doesn't need a committee or a commission, it needs a professional, that's what they do.
It does, absolutely.
I mean, but just like you say, he has to do that during the day, rub hands and rub shoulders with the right people. I mean, look at all, you can turn this off. You can look at all these people, all these surrounding towns, they are just grabbing people leaps and bounds.
They are.
I mean, I'm going by a site in Bloomfield right now on Day Hill Road.